is emulsification. So on the literature, you can find emulsion, emulsification, or whatever, and you can use probably without any problem. So the question is, regarding emulsification of intraocular silicone oil, the information is scarce, and even more, is not uniformly collected. And we are going to propose afterwards classification in order to uniformize the information that we as clinicians are using. After me is going to talk Salvador. They perform a meta-analysis on the use of silicone oil, and he's going to show what happened in the literature. So variation are very high, and honestly, it is difficult to have a clear idea and a conclusion. But what I think is on the mind of everybody is emulsification is a huge source of complication. So the most important is probably ocular hypertension, is the more frequent, but you have more examples in the literature, such as corneal decompensation, band keratopathy, epiretinal membranes, and so on, and so on, and so on. So the question is, which cause the emulsification? And you can find in the literature several options. For example, here, you can see mechanical, what's the pointer? Okay, here. So the cause is apparently, according to this author, is a mechanical problem induced by the band. There are some other reports that say that the guilty is the use of instrument during surgery, but it surprised me. But finally, this paper, which is relatively new, is in 2019, say that the type of silicone oil was the significant factor related with the early emulsification, which means earlier. We don't expect emulsification, big emulsification, before 1 month after we inject into the eye. Maybe this is a key, but we have to continue just seeing the causes of the emulsification. Suddenly, I was searching in the literature, and I found a paper, an strange paper, because this is a paper that used methodology to stabilize the emulsification of silicone oil. Obviously, it was not used for ophthalmology, it was used for hair care. But I thought everything that they made to stabilize the emulsification can be probably an explanation that what we have inside of the eye. So there are many possibilities. It's something intrinsic to the silicone oil. Maybe it's a kind of contamination by contaminants, or maybe it's something related with the patient. And probably, is my opinion, is a combination of many factors. Look at that. This is the paper for hair care. Don't put that into the eye. It's for the hair. So one of the questions is the viscosity. So viscosity has been a controversial issue in ophthalmology, but look at that. So the higher viscosity create bigger bubbles of silicone oil, but these bigger bubbles are less stable than the small one. And put that in your mind. Second, obviously, is the emulsification time. The longer the time you put the silicone oil into the eye, you have more chances to have emulsification. Third is the shear force, and then the author of this paper, once again, is for hair care. They use some strategies related with the application of surfactant, stabilizer, cationic polymer, or using proteins. So which are the data that we have in ophthalmology? For example, that one. So we have proteins inside of the eye. Even more, if there is an inflammation, there are more protein. If you have blood into the eye, you have more proteins. So probably these proteins may influence the rate of emulsification, even with the same viscosity, even with the same resident time. So the question is, it is possible that patients with an inflammatory environment, like the diabetic, young patients with uveitis, are more likely to emulsify? My experience say yes, but we need scientific data. These papers are not related to the vitreous, they are related with the tears. But look at that. So on the tears, there are surfactants, proteins, stabilizing the tears. Even more, phospholipid also stabilize the tears. And blood contains a lot of surfactant proteins, even more. You know that from the alveolar point of view, surfactants are very critical. So if you have inflammation and you have mediators of inflammation, you have more surfactant, and therefore you have more chances to have an emulsification. Another question are the amphiphilic additive on the silicone oil tamponade. There are several studies made with mechanical models, but finally the question is, if you have amphiphilic substances, you have more chances to have emulsification. And you know amphiphilic substances? Yes, why not? We are familiar with blood constituents, protein, glycolipids. All of them are inside of the eye, especially in several patients. And finally, there are like two schools. One is the school directly by the chemists, and they try to say that reducing the number of contaminants and reducing the number of low-weight molecular components in the silicone oil, you reduce the emulsification. It can be true, I don't know. But my point of view as a clinician is completely different. I think emulsification at the end of the story is a problem, is a biological problem, and biological problem should be probably related with the patient condition. So I invite you to create a list of patient and clinical situations in which the use of silicone oil cannot be recommended, because the use of silicone oil may probably stimulate a lot of emulsification. And thank you very much. This is my talk. Remember, emulsion, emulsification, whatever you want to use is fine. And please don't believe that everything can be solved purifying silicone. Finally, emulsification is something very complex, probably related as well to the patient condition. Thanks, Salvador.
Thank you so much. Let's introduce